You could be entitled to up to 50% of your spouse's Social Security, even if you never worked a day under your own name. Most couples have heard some version of that rule. Most couples also get an important part of it wrong, and that mistake can cost real money every month for the rest of their lives. Today I'll show you exactly how the spousal benefit works, who qualifies, and the timing trap that quietly shrinks that 50% down to about a third. I'll also clear up the number one myth, the idea that this check stacks on top of your own. Stick around, because by the end you'll know exactly what a spouse can claim and the timing traps to avoid. Hello, and welcome back. I'm Ray Bennett, and this is Social Security Decoded, where we take the rules buried in the government's fine print and walk through them slowly, in plain English, until they actually make sense. Today is all about the spousal benefit. In my years of teaching this material, I've found it's one of the most misunderstood corners of the entire program, and the confusion runs in both directions. Some couples believe they're owed more than the rules allow, and they get an unwelcome surprise when they finally file. Other couples have no idea this benefit exists at all, and they leave money on the table quietly, month after month, sometimes for decades. I've heard from people who missed out on years of payments simply because nobody ever told them the rule existed. Neither of those situations has to happen to you. Here's my promise for the next 15 minutes. No scare tactics and no hype. Just calm math, clear rules, and a couple of real-world examples with round numbers you can follow in your head. So pour yourself a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's take this one step at a time. Let's start with the rule itself, because everything else in this episode builds on it. When you're married, and one of you earned quite a bit more than the other over your working years, Social Security has a provision for the lower earner. You can receive a benefit worth up to 50% of your spouse's primary insurance amount. That's a mouthful of a term, so let me translate. Your primary insurance amount, or PIA, is simply the monthly check you'd receive if you started your benefit exactly at your full retirement age. Not early at 62, not late at 70, right at full retirement age. So picture a couple, Tom and Linda. Tom was the higher earner, and his full retirement age benefit, his PIA, is $2,400 a month. Linda spent many of those years raising their kids and working part-time. As Tom's spouse, she can qualify for a spousal benefit of up to $1,200 a month, half of his full retirement age amount. Now, here's the part that surprises people in the nicest possible way. That $1,200 does not come out of Tom's pocket. His check stays exactly the same. The spousal benefit is paid on his earnings record, but it costs him nothing, and it reduces his benefit by nothing. Think of it as a second faucet connected to the same well, and the well never runs lower because someone opened it. One more thing before we move on. Notice that I keep saying up to 50%. That little phrase is doing a lot of work, and the next two sections explain why. The first reason is a myth about stacking benefits. The second is a timing trap. Both of them change what actually lands in your bank account, so stay with me. Here is the mistake I see more often than any other. Linda, from our example, worked enough over the years to earn her own retirement benefit of $900 a month. When she first heard about the spousal benefit, she did what most people do. She added the two numbers together, $900 of her own plus $1,200 as Tom's spouse, for a total of $2,100 a month. She had already started mentally spending it. That is not how it works, and I would rather you hear it from me now than from a claims representative later. Social Security does not stack a spousal benefit on top of your own benefit. Instead, it compares the two numbers and pays you the higher one. Linda's own benefit is $900. Her spousal amount is $1,200, so she receives $1,200 a month. Behind the scenes, the agency pays her own $900 first and then adds $300 to bring her up to the spousal level, but the result is what matters. She gets the bigger of the two numbers, never the sum of both. When Linda learned this, she was disappointed for about a day. Then she sat down and ran the math again. $1,200 is still $300 more per month than she would have received on her own record alone. That's $3,600 a year she almost didn't know about. Believing the myth cost her nothing but a moment of deflation. Believing the opposite, assuming the spousal benefit wasn't worth checking, could have cost her real money for the rest of her life. Now flip the situation, because this side matters too. Suppose your own benefit is already 50% or more of your spouse's PIA. Say your own check is $1,400 and half of your spouse's PIA comes to $1,200. In that case, the spousal benefit adds nothing at all. Your own benefit already wins the comparison. You haven't lost anything, and nobody has cheated you. There's simply no gap to fill. So the first question every couple should ask is a simple one. Is the lower earner's own benefit less than half of the higher earner's full retirement age amount? If yes, there may be money waiting. If no, you can relax on this one and enjoy the rest of the episode as a refresher. Now for the part that trips up even careful planners. Timing. That 50% figure is a maximum, and you only get the maximum if you wait until your own full retirement age to claim it. Claim earlier, and the benefit is permanently reduced. Not reduced until some future birthday. Not reduced temporarily. Reduced for life. Here's what that looks like with real numbers. If you claim a spousal benefit at 62, the earliest age most people can file, you receive only about 32.5% of your spouse's PIA instead of the full 50. Go back to Tom and Linda for a moment. $1,200 at her full retirement age becomes roughly $780 if she claims at 62. That gap of over $400 a month never closes. Every year she waits between 62 and her full retirement age. The percentage climbs back up toward 50. So patience between those two ages is rewarded month by month. And then comes the surprise on the other side. The one that catches people who have already learned that patience pays with Social Security. With your own retirement benefit, waiting past full retirement age keeps paying off because your own check keeps growing until age 70. Many of you know that rule, and it's a good one. It's also exactly why this next sentence matters so much. The spousal benefit does not work that way. It maxes out at 50% at your full retirement age, and it never grows another dime after that. There are no delayed retirement credits on a spousal benefit. None. If you wait until 68 or 69 or 70 to claim it, you get exactly what you would have gotten at your full retirement age, and you gave up all of those monthly checks in between for nothing. So the sweet spot for a spousal benefit, in most situations, is your own full retirement age. Claiming earlier means a permanent haircut. Claiming later means checks you simply never collect. That's the timing trap, and now you've seen both sides of it. Let's get concrete about who can actually claim this benefit while married. There are 3 boxes to check. First, you generally need to be at least 62 years old. There is one exception worth knowing about. If you're caring for your spouse's child who is under 16, or a child who receives disability benefits, you can qualify at any age. For most couples watching this, though, 62 is the floor. Second, you need to have been married for at least 1 year. Social Security wants to see an established marriage, and 1 year is the line it draws. Third, and this is the box people miss, your spouse must have already filed for their own retirement benefit. You cannot collect a spousal benefit on a record that isn't paying out yet. If Tom hasn't filed for his own benefit, Linda cannot claim her spousal benefit no matter how old she is. Her benefit is tied to his decision to start his. I want to sit with that third rule for a moment because it shapes real household decisions. Sometimes the higher earner wants to keep waiting, maybe all the way to 70, for reasons we'll get to near the end of this episode. That choice delays the spousal benefit too, because the lower earner is waiting on that filing. A couple has to weigh these pieces together, as one household, not as 2 separate people making 2 separate decisions. There is no single right answer for everyone. But there is a right way to think it through, and it starts with knowing all 3 of these requirements before anyone signs anything. A viewer on another channel asked a question I hear all the time in one form or another. Could I have claimed the spousal benefit without filing for my own retirement? For most people today, the answer is no, and the reason is a rule called deemed filing. Here's how it works. If you were born on or after January 2nd, 1954, then the moment you file for either benefit, your own retirement or a spousal benefit, Social Security treats you as filing for both at the same time. You are deemed to have applied for everything you're eligible for, and you receive the higher of the 2 amounts. You do not get to pick one now and save the other for later. Why does that matter? Because for years there was a well-known strategy called the restricted application. The idea was clever. At your full retirement age, you would claim only the spousal benefit, collect that money for a few years, and let your own retirement benefit keep growing untouched until age 70. Then you would switch over to your own, now larger, check. People built entire retirement plans around that move. That strategy is gone. Congress eliminated it in the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2015, and the change applies to filings on or after January 2, 2016. If you were born on or after January 2, 1954, the restricted application is simply not available to you, no matter what an old article says, and you will still hear about it. That advice is floating around in books from a decade ago, in old blog posts, and in conversations over coffee. If a friend tells you to file a restricted application, they aren't trying to mislead you. They're remembering a rule that Congress closed years ago. Now you know better, and you can gently pass the correction along. Now for the section that surprises more people than any other part of this topic. You do not have to be currently married to claim a benefit like this. A divorced spouse can qualify too, and the rules are more generous than most people ever suspect. Let me tell you about Carol. Carol was married for 11 years before her divorce. She spent most of that marriage working part-time while her husband built his career. After the divorce, she rebuilt her life, never remarried, and figured his Social Security record had nothing to do with her anymore. In her mind, that chapter was closed. It wasn't. At 66, her full retirement age, Carol learned she could claim up to 50% of her ex-husband's PIA. Her own benefit came to about $800 a month. Half of his full retirement age amount came to $1,300. Under the same higher of the two rule we covered earlier, Carol now receives $1,300 a month. That's $500 more every single month than she believed she was entitled to. She had no idea. And she is far from alone. Here are the requirements. The marriage must have lasted 10 years or more, and Carol's 11 years cleared that bar. You must currently be unmarried, or if you did remarry, that remarriage happened at age 60 or later. You must be at least 62, and your ex must be entitled to benefits. Now, the detail that helps the most people. Normally, a spousal benefit requires the worker to have filed first, like we covered with Tom and Linda. But if you have been divorced for at least 2 years, that requirement disappears. Social Security calls this being independently entitled. Your ex does not need to have filed for anything. As long as they are old enough to qualify for benefits, you can claim on their record whether they've started collecting or not. And let me put 2 common worries to rest. First, claiming on your ex's record costs them nothing. Their check is not reduced by a penny. Second, Social Security does not notify them. Your ex will never get a letter saying you filed. This is a benefit connected to those years of marriage, and using it is nobody's business but yours. Before we wrap up, there's one piece of strategy that ties this episode to the one we did on survivor benefits, and it answers a question thoughtful couples always ask. If the spousal benefit is capped at 50% of the higher earner's full retirement age amount, what happens when the higher earner delays past that age? Say Tom waits until 70, and his own check grows nicely because of it. Does Linda's spousal benefit grow along with his? No. Her spousal benefit is calculated from his PIA, his full retirement age amount, not from his boosted age 70 check. 50% of the PIA is the ceiling, no matter how long he waits. But that does not mean his waiting is wasted on the household. Far from it. When one spouse passes away, the survivor generally steps into the larger of the 2 checks, and that survivor benefit reflects what the higher earner was actually receiving, including the growth he earned by delaying. So when Tom waits until 70, he isn't raising Linda's spousal benefit today. He is raising the check she would inherit as his widow, possibly for many years. For a lot of couples, that survivor protection is the strongest reason for the higher earner to keep waiting, even while the spousal benefit sits capped at 50%. If you haven't watched our survivor benefits episode yet, it pairs with this one, like 2 halves of the same plan. Let's bring this home with something you can actually do. Sometime this month, sit down together for 20 minutes. Each of you log into your own My Social Security account and find your full retirement age benefit estimate, your PIA. Write both numbers on one piece of paper, side by side. Then run the simple comparison we've been doing all episode. Is the lower earner's own benefit less than half of the higher earner's number? If it is, a spousal benefit is probably part of your retirement picture. And the timing rules we covered today deserve a careful look before either of you files anything. If you're divorced after a marriage of 10 years or more, add one extra step. Check yourself against the requirements we walked through, especially that 2-year rule. It costs nothing to ask Social Security what you might be entitled to on a former spouse's record, and the answer could genuinely change your monthly budget. Now, the reminder I give at the end of every episode, because it matters. This channel is education, not financial advice. I'm Ray Bennett, a fictional host, and while everything you heard today reflects the rules as we carefully check them, your situation has details that no video can see. Before you file anything, talk with the Social Security Administration directly, or sit down with a qualified professional who can look at your actual numbers. If this episode showed you money you didn't know about, share it with one couple who needs to hear it. Thanks for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of each other.